We're following this Loretta Lynch story as well. In fact, there's new details on that, sparking new calls for an investigation. Our very own David Asman spoke with the attorney Jordan Sekelo, who's pushing for answers on that. And let's listen.
I don't know that it's illegal for the alias to exist. I don't think that there's a problem there as long as you're actually on the server, like you said, so long as you're not hiding information that should be available to the public with that alias. And we know that is part of it.
All right, full interviews on after the bell today, 4 p.m. Eastern time. But here to talk about it right now, as luck would have it, is the great David Asman. He's the host of that show.
Took a lot to get me, didn't it?
How about that?
Took a lot to get me. One phone call.
We had to air your own interview to get you on. From the Washington Free Beacon, Liz Harrington is also here. And so is Mr. Gasparino. Hello, Charlie.
Wait a minute. I was told he wasn't going to be here.
Well, is there some sort of contractual?
I usually don't share the stage with you.
You don't share the stage with anybody.
Well, that's true.
That's another good point. Oh, good opening. You two should do a little stand-up.
At any rate,
tell us about this whole idea.
Okay,
the alias story, by the way, we talked about yesterday, which is crazy.
Yeah, the alias story is crazy. It's not illegal. We should mention a lot of people. But it's interesting. The people who were doing it in the Obama administration included Elizabeth Carlisle, otherwise known as Loretta Lynch. By the way, when she used that alias, Elizabeth Carlisle, she always signed it Elizabeth Carlisle AG. So everybody knew that that was her alias. But she saved her alias for sensitive subjects. So did Lois Lerner, by the way, the IRS official who got in trouble for targeting the Tea Party. She had an alias as well. So it was kind of common practice, it appears, during the Obama administration to use these things. But the problem, of course, and Jay Sekelo, we should mention, by the way, Jordan Sekelo is the son of Jay Sekelo, who was a White House attorney. So it's not as though they're completely independent in investigating
Trump attorney.
Exactly. He's Trump attorney, forgive me. But they received over 400 pages worth of material concerning this tarmac visit from the Justice Department. Most of that material was blacked out, by the way. And interestingly, it wasn't blacked out by the Obama Justice Department. It was blacked out by the Trump Justice Department. So they're wondering, even though some of these guys like Jay works for President Trump, why is Trump's Justice Department blacking out this material that could give us some idea of what was going on there?
What do you make of that, Liz? It's weird, right? All the stuff being blacked out. Your thoughts on this story?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the American people need to know what happened at this tarmac meeting, and especially the talking points with all these documents. We know that the Justice Department under Loretta Lynch were very concerned about this meeting going public, and apparently all these emails going back and forth, the best excuse they could come up with was that her and President Clinton were talking about grandchildren and golf for 45 minutes. But no, I think the Trump administration and Jeff Sessions at the Justice Department need to look into this. Whose decision was it to redact all of these materials? And also keep in mind, these are documents that the FBI under James Comey said didn't exist. And now, because Judicial Watch has sued the Justice Department, we actually get all these documents. So there's a lot going on here, and we need answers.
What stands out to you, Charlie?
Just getting back to Manafort, I just want to make one point here. I covered a lot of white-collar crimes, including the insider trading scandal. One of the more celebrated cases in the insider trading scandal was how one guy got his office raided. He ran a hedge fund. He got his office raided by Preet Bharara's Justice Department and the FBI. And guess what? They didn't find anything. He lost his business because news broke that the office was raided. Everybody thought he was involved with insider trading, and nothing happened to the guy. The guy is suing the Justice Department. Just put it out there. Just because you get your office raided doesn't mean anything. But I want to get back to this story, which seems like a tempest in a teapot. This whole thing about what's on the tarmac or not. Let's just be real clear what happened. I'm sure that Bill Clinton laid it on pretty heavy to Loretta Lynch not to bring charges. But let's just go back to what happened. James Comey gives a press conference. In that press conference, he does not charge. He says he does not charge Hillary Clinton. But he says how horrible she is and how reckless she was, and it really hurt her. Then guess what happens after that? About a week after that, he reopens the case. Net positive for Donald Trump again. So no matter what, then he closes it 2 days later, but it's 2 days before the election. It really didn't matter. So let's be real clear here. If we're looking for a conspiracy, what were they What was the end result?
Let me answer that, because in the first place, it was enough of a tempest to get Jim Comey to come out and be public about what the charges were against Hillary.
Right.
He says that. He says that's the reason he came out, was the tarmac meeting.
Which one?
The other
Which
point
time?
is
Which time?
The tarmac meeting.
No, but,
when he came out to lay out the case against Hillary and then said he wasn't going to charge her. But let me get to the main point, which I think is overlooked here. And I'm not exonerating the Obama administration, but President Obama had some real questions about the Clintons. He knew how they operated. He knew that they did a lot of sneaky stuff when they were.
But why do we care about the Clintons?
When President Bill Clinton was president, but also when Hillary Clinton was running for president. So I suspect that he was very concerned that the Clintons were trying in some way to subvert the Justice Department through Loretta Lynch, through this meeting, and President Obama himself was concerned about it.
But it didn't work.
It was not only not a tempest in a teapot because it forced Comey to come out and express what the charges were against Hillary, but it also was considered to be a tempest by President Obama.
But it didn't work. There is no end result here. James Comey, no matter the fumbling, bumbling James Comey, comes out, roasts Hillary Clinton, doesn't charge her, roasts her. Then a week later, reopens the case and roasts her again, and then closes it a day before the election. It had no impact.
It had a tremendous impact. It cost him his job eventually.
It gave Donald Trump the election.
It cost Jim Comey his job. So it had an impact. So you're just denying that it had an impact.
Well, it did have an impact.
How do you know that cost
him? It had a tremendous impact.
The Russian investigation cost him his job. Quote Trump.
No, but the impact. You just quote Trump. Hold on a second. You said it had an impact if it impacted the election.
It had an impact that was positive to Trump. James Comey, no matter which way you put it, the Justice Department might have put the screws to James Comey, which we don't know. But guess what? He ignored them, and they couldn't do anything about it.
By the way, there was one other part that did come out with these all these emails, which is the relationship that the media had with the Obama administration, in particular with the Justice Department. A reporter for the Washington Post was cozying up to him, saying, "My editors are still pretty interested. I'm hoping I can put it to rest by you answering a few questions." Then the Times. I've been pressed into service. I've been pressed into service.
What's wrong with that?
To write about the questions being raised by the Attorney General's office.
You haven't been a reporter in so long. You forgot what it's like to suck up.
No, Charlie,
I do it all the time.
How did that have to suck up like that?
You do sometimes.
Take that back. You haven't been a reporter in so long. Take that back.
No, I'm not, because that is what we do. We call up and we're like, please, give me a story.
Charlie, I've never sucked up to an official like this.
I'm not saying that, and neither have I. But I'm telling you, we do things. We do things. It's not so bad.
They're telling my ear, let's move on, and they don't even say to what. Let's move on to anything. Doesn't even matter. Whatever it is, just get away from this. Have two people working together there. Come on, Gasparino. Liz, I'm sorry you have to
suck up.
I'm sorry you have to.
Sorry, Liz.
Or sometimes the opposite. All right. We'll talk about tax reform, right? That'll calm everybody down. Hey, Charlie was actually here yesterday. We had Issa on, Congressman Darrell Issa. We were talking a little bit about this, and here's part of what he said. We'll come back. Here he is. It does sound to me, as opposed to going with something that would be traditionally revenue neutral, you are open to the fact of cutting taxes and having economic growth pay for those tax cuts. That's fair.
Historically, the tax cuts that have grown the economy, the Kennedy tax cut, the Reagan tax cut, they were not currently revenue neutral, but they grew the economy and more money came in.
All right, let's, how about go to Liz?
From Charlie when in the answer.
That was the only part of the interview you didn't talk to. Let's go to Liz. Poor Liz has been sitting there and waiting to weigh in. Okay, tax cuts. The whole debate is about whether or not we cut taxes and it's just the economic growth is going to pay for the whole thing, or they're going to make it revenue neutral, and how that affects it getting done. What do you think?
Right. I think that's a good argument. It's a solid argument. The corporate tax rate is much too high. It's one of the highest in the world, and it will spur economic growth that I think will pay for it. The problem is Republicans can get their act together, like they couldn't get it on health care in the Senate. If they can work with the House on this and get the corporate rates lower, the middle-income class rates lower, I think they have a good shot of getting it done.
Yeah, but David, Charlie did report yesterday that it looked like McConnell might be softening a little bit on this, on the revenue neutrality part. So, what do you think?
I think McConnell's softening on everything. I mean, he just blamed Donald Trump for forcing the Senate to do their job. I think the Senate really has to get its act together more than they ever have before. I think, though, that what Art Laffer and what some other people are talking to Trump about this, is saying is what's going to happen. There's not going to be a tax reform package.
Maybe
what there's going to be are some specific tax cuts where they can get a couple of Democrats like Joe Manchin and to join them, and they may even have some Republicans go away from it, like McCain, but have Democrats like Manchin come on.
They're so desperate. They need something that'll be a win, and that could be it. I agree. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. And I think if we're going to lay odds, I think it'll be the corporate tax cut. And because here's the thing, what's good about the corporate tax cut, if you sell it right, and I think the president probably has to sell it, is that you can say that this will be so good for jobs. We have the highest in the, by the way, it's like the third highest. I think there's two other countries that might be higher.
You know, the one problem, though, Charlie, with this is that if you focus on corporate, once again, for politically speaking, it gives the Democrats a talking point in 2018. They can say, once again, it's the Republicans that are for the big corporations, not for the little guys.
But you got to sell it how this creates jobs. And, you know, listen, there's a lot of Democrats that will, there are some Democrats that believe the corporate tax rate is too high. Manchin is one of them. And I think if you sell it right as a job-creating vehicle, you can do it.
They might come on board. All right, that was a much better
Trump
ending.
gets into the selling mode, he's been kind of slow to pick that up on tax.
He's slow on that and health care.
You know, I'll issue one apology. Let me apologize to Liz for having to endure all of this. But you sure, Charlie, nothing to say here, David?
What did I say? I suck up to my sources all the time.
On that
That's what I do.
I don't think even Charlie would suck up this way.
Not so
hey,
bad.
gee, I'm so sorry. I have to get something negative on your guy.
I want to get that into one of those little banners at the bottom of the screen. Gasparino, : I suck up to my sources. You know what I mean?
My sources.